This is episode 1 of the A&Q NewsSpin. To those of us who have been living under a rock, the geopolitical world is in turmoil. After the crash of the Silicon Valley Bank, Swiss regulators on Saturday raced to seal a deal before Credit Suisse collapsed amid fears of banking contagion. The Wall Street Journal reports that economists are now estimating that 186 US banks may be prone to the same risks as Silicon Valley Bank. Anybody there remember the Wall Street crash of 1929? Also known as the Great Crash, the Crash of 29, or Black Tuesday. It was the most devastating stock market crash in the history of the United States. It also signaled the beginning of the Great Depression. And how did that affect the American economy? In the United States, industrial production between 1929 and 1933 fell by nearly 47%. Domestic production declined by 30%, and unemployment reached more than 20%. African American men and women were the ones to suffer the most. By 1932, unemployment among African Americans reached nearly 50%. Back then, let's say some savvy investors were able to sense the trouble ahead and pulled their investments, unlike anything that we might be seeing today, just a coincidence. In the United States, between April 1942 and June 1946, the annual rate of inflation was just 3.5%. The annual rate had been 10.3% in the 6 months before April 1942, and it soared to 28% in the 6 months after June 1946. But let's not split hairs here. The annual inflation rate for the United States is 6% for the 12 months ended February 2023, after rising 6.4% previously, according to US Labor Department data published March 14. Now back to present days, let's take a look at the SVB collapse. The Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. As of December 31, 2022, SVB had approximately 209 billion in total assets and about 175 billion in total deposits. On Thursday, prior to collapse, clients pulled 42 billion in deposits from SVB, according to California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, leading to a negative cash balance of 958 million. FDIC took over SVB. Approximately 90% of deposits are uninsured by FDIC. They are above $250,000. The Biden administration has announced that customers of Silicon Valley Bank will have full access to their deposits. The FDIC made its fund available to provide the liquidity. With the collapse of the Signature Bank and nearly 190 other banks prone to the same situation, Treasury Secretary Yellen says not all uninsured deposits will be protected in the future bank failures. Let's take a look at the 25 largest banks in the US by asset size. And let's consider that the American people in the end ended up bailing out the SVB, the bank of the elite. As we see the total assets of the banks, we see that if there was a run on the banks, there wouldn't be anywhere nearly enough money to get started with. And if the government intervened, and if the Fed would print money to make all assets good, the US economy, and therefore the world economy, would face the worst inflation of its history. And to those of us who know history, we know what comes afterwards. In Germany, prior to the World Wars, by July 1922, prices had risen by some 700%, and hyperinflation had arrived. Between August 1945 and July 1946, the general level of prices rose at the astounding rate of more than 19,000% per month, or 19% per day. But I'm sure it's not gonna come to that point this time. In layman's word, it means there is not enough money in the system. The fiat system is crashing, and the good banks have 20 cents on a dollar. So if there is a run on the banks, well, there's not going to be enough money. And the governments that are federalizing the banks, they're going to request that, for example, in the United States, that the Fed print a lot of money. And then what happens is massive inflation. Now the news on the Ohio train derailment. The 2023 Ohio train derailment occurred on February 3, 2023, when 38 cars of a Norfolk Southern freight train carrying hazardous materials derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, United States. Several rail cars burned for more than 2 days, with emergency crews then conducting a controlled burn of several rail cars, which released hydrogen chloride and phosgene into the air. Scientists and students analyzed over 300 samples of soil and water in and around East Palestine, Ohio, and they found the presence of carcinogenic substances. The toxic chemical explosion caused animal and plant life to die off over 100 miles downstream from the Ohio town. More than 30 million people live in the Ohio River Basin. The Ohio River is a source of drinking water for more than 5 million people. The Ohio train derailment is being considered the worst chemical incident in the history of the United States, and there are parallels being drawn in relation to Chernobyl. Meanwhile, our betters on the Silicon Valley had the Biden administration stepping in and announcing that customers of the SVB will have full access to their deposits, as well as together with the US Congress, having sent more than $75 billion in assistance to Ukraine. Rednecks in the flyover country in Ohio should have access to a financial commitment totaling nearly $8 million in order to handle the worst chemical incident in the history of the United States of America. There are many videos overwhelming the social medias of rainbow chemicals on the water and rivers of fish turning up dead. The dead deers along the river, they remain with their flesh intact, as not even the worms would eat it. And the pH levels of the water are in between 3 and 5 in many areas. And for those who have some notion of the pH levels that are good for health, you know that's as deadly as it gets. I guess the mainstream media missed this one. Now on the Hunter Biden laptop, or what many in the right are calling the laptop from hell. On April 12, 2019, Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden, the President of the United States, entered a computer repair shop. Hunter had 3 MacBook Pro laptops with water damage. One was destroyed beyond repair, and the computer shop owner gave that back to Hunter. The other required a keyboard that he loaned to Hunter. The third laptop Hunter left with Mac Isaac to fix. Eventually, John Mac Isaac, the computer shop owner, completed his task, but Hunter never showed up, even after repeated calls. Some time later, Mac Isaac reached out to his father in New Mexico and had him reach out to the FBI. The FBI out east eventually did stop by and grab the laptop. Up to date, the FBI has announced no investigations. The laptop allegedly has the evidence of over 400 crimes of the Biden family, including involvement with drug trafficking, human traffickers, money laundering, extortion, and other crimes. Meanwhile, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has announced that he is expecting his arrest. In 2016, adult film star Stormy Daniels contacted media outlets offering to sell her account of what she said was an adulterous affair she had with Donald Trump in 2006. In 2016, Trump's legal team paid Mrs. Daniels $130,000 in hush money to avoid the scandal. This is not illegal. However, when Mr. Trump reimbursed Mr. Cohen, the record for the payment says it was for legal fees. Prosecutors say this amounted to Mr. Trump falsifying business records, which is a misdemeanor, a criminal offense in New York. Meanwhile, the Biden family expects no investigations on the case of the Hunter Biden laptop, nor the case of the classified documents found at the Penn Biden Center and the Wilmington residence. The documents are from the time of Joe Biden as a vice president of the United States. The Hunter Biden laptop and the classified documents are not the only scandals to hit the Biden family. Project Veritas, an investigative journalist organization, had access to Ashley Biden, Joe Biden's daughter, diary. In a January 2018 entry, Ashley recalled how she used to shower with her father and suggested it may have contributed to a sex addiction. Quote, I have always been boy crazy, hypersexualized at a young age. I remember somewhat being sexualized. I remember having sex with my friends at a young age, showers with my dad. Probably not appropriate, she wrote in a January 2018 entry, according to the Daily Mail. The FBI has not announced any investigations. Former President Donald J. Trump supporters have smeared the FBI and the DOJ in what they call a two-tiered justice system.